Arewa Youth's state position on suspension of EFCC chair. Cooking gas, marketers attribute price decrease to international market forces. Countries waste trillions of dollars on subsidies. World Bank, Ogun Tribunal, Showumi reports alleged attack on him to Reviw, calls for investigation. Amotekun nabs father of 3 for allegedly defiling 9-year-old girl in Ondo. Federal government gives governors 1-week deadline to submit reports on flood-prone states. And we just take a couple more before we move to another paper. INEC Chair Yakubu to tender voter register at Presidential Tribunal June 16. And federal government considers mass production of CNG-powered vehicles to mitigate impact of fuel subsidy removal.
All right, quickly over to the cable NG this morning. We also have quite a number of top stories and, of course, still talking about subsidy. Next set up committee to consider 702 billion naira as living allowance for civil servants. CBN removes 463 naira per dollar from website codes. I and E Windows 632 naira and 77 kobo as the new naira to a dollar now. And of course, close up energy expert, prominent banker meets Tinubu's special advisors. Abbas, political stability should be prioritized to attract foreign investment. And they have this now. Those claiming civilians were killed in Nasarawa airstrike should provide evidence. Naira hit 791 naira per dollar, closes at 702 naira per dollar 24 hours after float. Bloomberg Index, Dangote the Samad Reviw lost $5.85 billion to naira float. Judge suspends Stella Odua's trial over threats to his life. And of course, we have some couple more. And this says Global Fund approves $1 billion to aid Nigeria's fight against TB malaria. And we'll take 2 more. Abbas inspects House of Reps chamber under renovation. Tanko Yakasai, Tinubu did great in Lagos. He will replicate same for Nigeria.
Let's take a look at some of the stories from the Punch newspaper. NDLEA arraigns 4 for importing illicit drugs. Power-drunk customs officials loot traders' shop overnight. Man vandalizing transformer dies of electrocution in Kogi. Probe begins as OAU student dies of suspected suicide. Okada rider rapes 8-month-old pregnant lady. Victim faints. Ogun community seeks governorship intervention over bad road. Customs destroy 12.8 billion naira contraband in Lagos. Police probe suspected suicide by female OAU student. And some more, taking that one before. Away from that, manufacturers lose 10.1 trillion naira yearly to power crisis man. Naira weakens to 702 per dollar. CBN fresh FX supply likely. And 10th Assembly leadership, I felt betrayed by election results, says Yari. Obaseki pledges improved health care welfare for senior citizens. House of Reps Speaker constitutes 7 special committees. Don't seek re-election, Imo PDP tells Uzodimma. 10th Assembly leadership, APC diaspora group hails choice of Akpabio Abbas. Tinubu meets ex-CBN Governor Sanusi at State House. And finally, Governor Bello's aide Makama breaks silence over rumored DSS arrest.
All right, now over to Vanguard newspaper front page. There are also other headlines here. Tinubu to neck, no excuse for failure. Presidential poll over 18,088 results. INEC upload were blood. Obi's witness came up with that. Tribunal, Tinubu kicks as court admits INEC's exhibit containing his bow data. And of course, more latest news here. Tinubu, all right, we have that already. Court dismisses Aerofy's defamation case against Shehu Sani. Presidential poll. Okay, still talking about the 18,088 result INEC uploaded on the website. Subsidy oil market plan, petrol importer, CBN floats forex. How security agencies can improve community policing. ECAPI is coming up with that. Tribunal, Tinubu kicks, all right, more of that already. Living in post-subsidy Nigeria by Adekunle Adekoya. And of course, let's look at more story. Jackpot syndrome. Reps reject motion to stop immigrations. And we also have these attacks, kidnapping. We are under siege. Ondo community raises alarm. And let's see if we could take some couple more right here on the front page of the Vanguard this morning. Okay, and of course, this says federal government appoints FBI Academy alumnus to call EFCC acting chairman, Caleb VC to speak on prospect of higher education in Africa, and Macron, a president in love with Nigeria. And of course, we just take two more, and this says Tinubu appoints Alake Ribadu Edu other special advisors, subsidy oil marketers plan petrol importers, CBN floats forex.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. Workers to receive cost of living petrol allowances. Tinubu to NEC members, let's join forces to transform economy. And Abdusalami Akonde Yakasai, Tinubu on track. Naira closes at 702 Naira per dollar at INE window. UN Chief Obaseki Abiodun Moon Kwara boat accident victim. Away from that, Lagos begins support healing sessions for SGBV perpetrators, and Don gets award of excellence. That's gone away. Northern traditional leaders pledge support for Tinubu. Away from that one, President Tinubu remembers mother 10 years after. Trillions wasted on subsidies, enough to save planet, says World Bank. Delta APC group seeks probe of party senators' votes. Still on the Nation, let's move to the sports side. Messi scores fastest career goal in Argentina win. Cost of food, fuel inflation to 22.44% in May. Adebayo slammed Governor Mutfwang over dissolution of Plateau councils. And finally, from the Nation newspaper, this one says Nigerians should be patient with Tinubu over subsidy removal.
Now to the Guardian this morning on the front page, it says costly rent, burial plots, no resting place for the poor, even in that. And it says in chaotic cities nationwide, dying is just as risky and more expensive as living. As for the majority that unfortunately dies wretched, the cost of cemetery spaces is competing with those of residential apartments. The alternative is public burial spot. And more story says posers over ministerial list as Tinubu unveils henchman in batches. 18,088 blood election result uploaded to IRF portal. Witness tells court. Economic Council meets on NLC 702 billion naira recommendation for salary adjustments. PMS marketer says $1.8 billion needed monthly for importer stakeholders move to resolve grey areas. And of course, more news here. Goldman Sachs 6 higher interest rates to hedge against naira depreciation. And NRC to begin e-ticketing system for Lagos Ibadan Warri Etapa train routes. And of course, let's take two more. And this says family sacks Kano lawyers Ozekome Ejiofor. Amid energy economic consultancies, stakeholders seek leeway for priority sector.
All right, we're going to break now. When we return, we have the analysts in the studio to dive into the analysis for us. To stay with us.
We can bet that you've never listened to radio like this before.
You can bet that you've never listened to radio like this before. It's the voice of happiness. 32 FM 94.9.
We are all gathered here today to witness the joining of all 32 of you in blissful matrimony to Glow MiFi and Router. Do you, Wi-Fi enabled devices, take this Glow MiFi and Router as your lawful data plug?
Yes, we do!
Do you, Glow MiFi and Router, promise to be there in good times and in Sakba?
Yes, we do!
Now you may stay connected.
Enjoy a connected life with Glow MiFi and Router. Get 60 gigabytes data bonus when you buy a Glow MiFi and 180 gigabytes data bonus when you buy a Glow Router. And connect up to 32 Wi-Fi enabled devices. Available at Glow World shops nationwide.
Glow Unlimited.
ọdún iléyá wọlé wẹ́rẹ́ bá wa láàyè dẹ̀ra alihamdulilayi iléeṣẹ́ Zenith Real Estate and Properties Limited ló ní kẹ́ẹ̀rà lẹ̀kẹ́ ẹgbẹ̀rún ọdún promo idli kabri lélẹ́yìí OPP ó pọ̀ pa ẹ̀dínwó ti wà lórí àwọn ilẹ̀ estate wa pátá o Kings Park Estate Mọ́níyà Ìbàdàn 1.4 million naira Achievers Estate ní Ìdó 700,000 naira Sun City Estate Alábàtà Mọ́níyà Ìbàdàn 1.5 million naira Rehoboth Park and Garden Estate Elekuru Mọ́níyà 800,000 naira Treasure Land Estate ní òpópónà Funab Alábàtà Abẹ́òkúta 150,000 naira Greenland Estate Phase 1 Alábàtà Abẹ́òkúta 300,000 naira bó o bá ṣe ń sanwó láò fún ẹ nílẹ̀ rẹ táwọn sì ṣe corner piece fún ọ lọ́fẹ̀ẹ́ ìwọ náà wàá ralẹ̀ lọ́dọ̀ wa kó o gbẹ̀bùn bíi ẹran àgbò ìrẹsì òróró fan amómitutù àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ June 11 sí July 11 ní promo yìí wà fún o Zenith Real Estate and Properties Limited wà ní dojúkọ IITA lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ Àrẹ̀mú Block Industry Ọjọ́ Mọ́níyà Road Ìbàdàn fún àlàyé lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ 081-410-39905 tàbí kó WhatsApp wọn lórí 081-409-42376 Zenith Real Estate and Properties Limited Baka Disala.
Naija people with the yarn better tori abeg.
For Italian league, Osimhen goals come be like 5-6. Bruh, na Ballon d'Or remain no.
I'll be different on this one. Her father picked some boy over his own daughter as CEO.
No one tells a story like we do. Stream live football, local and international shows on Showmax, Africa's original streaming service. Sign up at showmax.com.
I'm living the life cause I get to Zeti.
Hey, Kombo ẹ̀kú àlejò emu gbòǹgbòǹnà ẹ̀kú àlejò ẹsẹ̀ Ìbàdàn nílé Olúyọ̀lé ẹ̀kú àmójúbà ti Zeti Network Limited pẹ̀lú ti Zeti ìlò omi òjò lẹ́ẹ̀ máa lo ayélujára internet ní yàwàlù torí pé gbajúgbajà níléeṣẹ́ ti Zeti Network Limited nídìí ìpèsè ayélujára lórílẹ̀‐èdè Nàìjíríà fún iléeṣẹ́ ńláńlá àtolókòwò kéékèèké lábẹ́ àbúradà ti Zeti ẹ lè browse kẹ́ stream kẹ́ sì tún gbá game bó ṣe wù yín láì níkọ̀sẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ìlànà ẹgbẹ̀lẹ́mùkú data kèé máa ṣeré ìwọ ni kò má sọ̀fànù 12,500 naira péré lẹ́ẹ̀fi jẹ mùlá data fódìdí oṣù kan gbáko lábẹ́ àbúradà tizeti láì níkọ̀sẹ̀ ẹ kàn sí wifi.com.ng/oyo ẹ sì lè pe 01-2298-786 tàbí kẹ́ ẹ tẹ àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ sí internet@wifi.com.ng ayélujára ní yàwàlù.
nǹkan tí mo bá ṣe onífẹ́mi láì ní òdiwọ̀n ó tó gbẹ́kẹ̀lé lójoojúmọ́.
Ìfẹ́ tí kò lábàwọ́n ni ìfẹ́ ìyá jẹ́. Bẹ́ẹ̀ kò sí ohun tó dùn tó bíi Indomie alájẹpọnu lákànlọ́. Nítorí náà, fi ìfẹ́ hàn pẹ̀lú Indomie.
Guy, see how many power bank only you dey carry. You dey sell am.
Oh boy, I get many important meetings today. I no fit miss them.
My brother, you dey give yourself wahala. How na? You suppose dey use the INT'L P40 to dey power yourself. Enjoy real power with all new INT'L P40. With just one charge, enjoy 3 days of fun with a 6,000 mAh mega battery with fast charge and 7GB RAM. Also get 5GB data from Airtel for just 1,000 naira when you buy INT'L P40 and activate with an Airtel 4G SIM card. SMS GET to 141 now. INT'L P40, one charge for 3 days.
ẹni tí ò bá mọ̀nà kì í dá pàdépàdé a jẹ́ pé gbogbo ẹni tó bá ń dàrọ̀kọ̀ àti lọ gbé kàwé tàbí ṣiṣẹ́ lókè òkun léyìíkéyìí orílẹ̀-èdè bíi Canada, UK, Cyprus, Australia tó fi mọ́ ọ̀pọ̀ orílẹ̀-èdè ní Europe Bauhop Consult ni ẹ bá dòwò pọ̀ bí wọ́n ṣe mójúlẹ́jà àti bániṣètò ìrìn àjò sókè òkun ni wọ́n tún jẹ́ aṣojú ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ilé ẹ̀kọ́ nílẹ̀ aláwọ̀ funfun fẹ́nikẹ́ni tó bá fẹ́ kàwé nílùú òyìnbó wọ́n ń bániṣètò iṣẹ́ pẹ̀lú ìrànwọ́ ètò ẹ̀yáwó fákẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ìyẹn student loan tó fi mọ́ scholarship bí ọgọ́ làwọn akẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tó bá ṣe IELTS lọ́dọ̀ wọn ṣàṣeyọrí àjẹpẹ́ boko bá jìnnà ẹ̀ lákìíkò Bauhop Consult wà ní nọ́mbà 55 Liberty Stadium Road àdójúkọ Lano House off Òkè-Àdó Ìbàdàn ẹ̀ka wọn sì wà ní 15/17 Solaron Plaza Akówọjọ Road Ẹ̀gbẹ́dá nípínlẹ̀ Èkó fún àlàyé lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ ẹ pè 0815-677-6425 website www.bauhopconsult.com.ng wọ́n wà lórí ìkànnì ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ gbogbo Twitter, Facebook àti Instagram @Bauhop Consult kọ́kọ́rọ́ tó ṣílẹ̀kùn àti tẹkọ̀ létí lọ sókè òkun.
Ìbàdàn máa jẹ̀gbín yó ọmọ àfikàràmù fọ́ orí mu. Samsung ti dé pẹ̀lú àwọn ìfilọ́lẹ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè. Gba Bluetooth speaker ohun àǹfẹ̀tì gbọ́nigbọ́rọ̀ àti power bank alágbára lọ́nà $20 million per hour. Tó o bá ra ẹ̀yà ẹ̀rọ Samsung A series tá a yàn. Wàá tún gba aago ìbọ̀wọ́ Samsung Watch 5 tó o bá ra ẹ̀yà S23 series àbí Samsung Watch 5 Pro tó o bá ra Flip 4 àbí Fold 4. Ìfilọ́lẹ̀ yìí wà láwọn ibùsọ̀ Samsung kọ̀ọ̀kan tá a yàn. O lè kàn sí Solat, Laplace àtàwọn ibùsọ̀ kọ̀ọ̀kan tá a fún láṣẹ tó súnmọ́. Ó yá tààrà ṣàṣà kó tó tán lẹ̀.
The joy of a great nation rests on the shoulders of a radio station.
Camera action. Your music.
32 FM 94.9.
I want you to be mine.
All right, and we're back. Thank you for staying with us. It's 32 FM 949 Ibadan, the Break It On Papers Review. I am Adenike Ademuwago.
And I'm GBOLABO Famous School. We have Professor Lua Jedoku already in the studios with us this morning. Good morning, Prof.
Of course, it's top of the day to you.
Good morning. Okay, so let's start with subsidy removal. Labour recommends 702 billion naira salary adjustment as petrol allowances for workers. Now, according to this, there was a proposal or recommendation by the NLC and the TUC that the federal government consider 702 billion in bailout funds, which will come in form of salary as for fuel allowances and, of course, for everything happening with the subsidy. This money seemed to be different from the World Bank $800 million money. And from the look of things, how do we intend to raise such an amount to temporarily elevate workers and the poor in the society?
First and foremost, I'm not sure that the $800 million was approved just by the Senate, but we don't know whether it's been collected or whether the government pursued it. Well, nonetheless, the 700 billion, sorry,
702 billion.
Billion, yes, it's a welcome development, because if you look at it, we are spending about 3 trillion a quarter. So if you look at that amount, and even though I've argued before that we simply don't have the money, but I'm sure we can find 700 billion. Having said that, let me tell you the difficulty I have. The difficulty I have is that it's only going to be workers and salary earners. And there are a lot of people in society, small businesses, taxi drivers, micro and a lot, you understand, who will not be part of this. You may argue that they will benefit because more people have more money in their hands, so it will trickle down. But I still feel that something should be done for those in the private sector to enable the private sector to support this. Because there's no point being in the private sector when the people in the government are getting, the full palliatives in terms of salary increase, and the private sector remains below par. So I think the government will have to find a way to equalize in some sort of way. It can't be totally equal, but I think it's a good development.
But Prof,
yes,
why does it seem like it's like we keep taking? What about infrastructural developments that can, like ideas on infrastructure? It's like we're so quick to say, you know what, let's assign this kind of money for this quickly. Let's do this and that. So how do you how do you make sure that there's some return on investment? There's some monies. We're not just spending money. And should all of this not have been factored in before fuel subsidy? Why are we just making suggestions now? And, it's better to teach a person how to fish than to keep giving them fish.
But some might argue that 700 billion could be found without necessary borrowing at all. I would be objecting if it's borrowed money. Of course, I would object. In terms of infrastructure, the argument is that infrastructure development is going on anyway. You understand? They're borrowing money for that, and there's no impediment to that. My own argument is that the things like Ajao Kuta that we are still spending billions on and nothing is coming out of it, you scrap those things and then you use those funds, for the recurrent expenditure. But borrowing is a no-no. I agree with you that if you borrow, you are just mortgaging ourselves for money that is going down the Swanee. So I agree entirely from that point of view. But I think, you also raised another point that why is it now? I'm not sure that the Labour Party, not the Labour Party, the Labour NLC, Nigerian Labour Congress, and the TUC had actually engaged with this issue until it actually happened. And that's the problem. It's knee-jerk. They ought to have done their research so that they will come up with alternatives to the government and say, these are the ideas which were fixed. Secondly, the APC government that is in power now, they haven't got ministers in place. So even though we have, of course, this fuel issue, they are not fully able to engage with it yet until we have everybody in place. The special advisors have just been appointed, and I guess the ministers will be appointed. So I guess that they will be going on full throttle once the ministers are in place, and all these ideas we are talking about will come into play.
All right, Prof, I want us to also look at George suspending Stella Odua's trial over threats to his life. And of course, the presiding judge of a federal high court, has ordered the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to arrest some persons over threats to his life. And now he actually reeled out that particular message and shared its information with some lawyers who are standing as parties in this particular case. And now when we go around having instances of judges fearing for their lives because of the kind of case that they handle. Now let's look at the quantum of the allegation against Odua, 5 billion naira alleged misappropriation, and we do know that she's a former minister of aviation. Now, would we now say that as a society we close our eyes to all of this and let this happen to our justice sector or justice system in the country itself?
I think the real shame, first and foremost, is that Odua has since been a senator since the ministerial engagement. So how long does it take for justice to prevail in this country? That's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is that it's unprecedented for a judge to be under such threats that they need, to shout out in public. Judges normally have odd lists and so on. It tells you that they have inadequate security. And of course, the third thing, you understand, is that Odua, must be investigated further to show if she has any links with this criminality that is going on. Why do I say that? Because people don't just rise, to threaten judges, just freelance. This is not a freelance operation, in my view, from that point of view. And I also think, that the judges need the utmost of security around there. They need to be secure. And if they catch the people responsible, they need to be taught a lesson or two so that nobody feels that they can threaten justice. Because if the justices do not feel able to do their jobs, then we will not have justice and we will not have a peaceful, free and a fair society.
MPC spent 140 billion naira on technology equipment. This is coming from the commissioner and Ayodeji Ajayi. He says that about 200 billion naira that was released to MPC for the postponed exercise, about 70%, that is over 140 billion naira of the sum, was used for the purchase of technology and equipment such as PDAs and laptop. By this, we should naturally be assured that we do not have to start afresh for the preparations for the conduct of census when another date is set, right?
Well, that's the normal, logical and reasonable position to take. But what I've discovered in Nigeria is that year in, year out, equipment that have been bought in the previous year is rebought again. Because what people do, either they're damaged or either, all sorts of things happen to you. I'll give an instance. I once went to the field with a number of laptops. We got them. We donated it to an organization, which I don't need to mention their name. And because they were working in the north, they were IBM laptops. Do you know that after about 6 or 7 months, because of dust and everything, those laptops stopped working? So we know that, you understand, no matter how safe they try to keep some of these things, some of them will malfunction. But yes, most of the equipment, you understand, you wouldn't expect them to repurchase them. But of course, there might be some upgrades or some additional things. It's a good thing that those things are in place, but they are also recurrent expenditure, which you will never recover because they would have gone in terms of allowances, training, salaries, and whatsoever. The earlier we have this census, the better, or else most of this money will go down the drains.
Now let's look at the Naira and, of course, unification of the exchange rates market itself. And now, as at yesterday, Naira hit 791 Naira per dollar, closes at 702 Naira per dollar, 24 hours after float. What is going to happen to our economy? Because obviously, if you look at what economic experts have been saying, they've been speaking from the both side of their mouth, while some others are saying, as a matter of fact, yes, the Naira, we appreciate. Some say that this is a bad policy itself, that you don't just allow garbage in, garbage out with our exchange rate itself. What do we make out of this, Prof?
We are possibly one of the few countries in the world where we are trying to control the exchange rate and not allow the market to control it. So what we are doing, allowing the market to control it, is the most natural thing to do. And if you look at it, on the black market, most of us have been buying these things at close to 800, 790, 800. I'm talking about the dollar, from that point of view. So this is not necessarily a bad development. Some suggesting it will go up and down. If the economy is very productive, you will see that it will come down. A lot of people have hoarded dollars in the past because they want to make use of the arbitrage. They want to do some round tripping and so on and so forth. And I think this policy, you understand, will encourage as much people to sell their dollars, you understand. And of course, if they do, it brings down the Naira. Of course, there are disadvantages that in the short term, manufacturers that have been getting access to cheap foreign exchange may not get it that cheap again, and it may affect the cost of some goods.
Is there a precedent for this, for us to actually say in the short term or in the long term, the Naira will actually appreciate than what we have today?
Well, I think there's a precedent. You have to look at when Oshibajo became acting president, when the dollar was going haywire. and they put in place some policies, you understand. I'm not going to specify them at this stage. And it brought down the naira, you understand. The naira appreciated, and the dollar went back to where it came back from, from that policy. So, the more foreign direct investment that comes in, the more stability, the more secure society that we have, transparency of government policies, you understand, a clear direction, all that will invite a lot of investors. And of course, if you're having people coming in, that inflow in itself, of course, allows the naira to appreciate. But also, we have a backlog of dollars, of naira that has been, foreign investors like airlines, they can't get their money out of the economy. And of course, in the short term, we would have to be spending a lot of foreign exchange so that they can get their money out. But as soon as they get their money out and they are sure they can come to Nigeria and invest, then more investors will come in. The reason why many people don't come here is because when they bring their money into this economy, they can't get it out in foreign exchange. It's stuck in naira, and they don't need the naira for anything.
Of course, speaking of naira, it was reported by the Daily Post that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is thinking of extending the validity of old naira notes. And this is according to his advisory council chaired by Senator Tokunbo. And he says the 2024 deadline is set to be considered for the old naira notes. That's December 2024. Does this seem like maybe this is going to stay for a longer period? I mean, December 2023 does not seem like such a bad idea for the old notes to be fizzled out. If we're extending into December 2024, do you think it's going to extend beyond that? And we'll get to a point where we're now using both old notes and new notes?
Well, if you look at other countries like United Kingdom, even the US, sometimes it takes up to 18 months, you understand, for the complete transition to occur.
Right.
So I guess that they are going to look at the economic exigencies and to see, you understand, if there's any need, you understand, to remove the old notes entirely. And I think it's going to be a natural progression. And the problem with it is that we don't have enough new notes. Yesterday, I think I collected some money, about, 30,000, and only 2,000 of it. You understand? Was in new naira notes. So it tells you that the new notes are not even available. So I think until we get to a stage where there's enough new naira notes, I think this government policy will be to continue to have both side by side. I don't think it causes much confusion, you understand, even though they're different colors. I think people have come to accept that there's new and there's old.
It doesn't seem like they're informing us on, the steps they are taking to make sure that we have an abundance of the new note.
Well, because we also know there's an hiatus. Hiatus means, transition between the both governments. There's a gap. And of course, we know that the central bank governor is cooling his heels somewhere at the moment. I think as soon as we get some stability in the central bank, there'll be more information, because central bank actually controls the supply of notes rather than the federal government itself.
All right, we have to pay that bill now. But when we come back, Prof, while we open the phone lines,
We fill the world with laughter. We are 32 FM 94.9.
It's 7 a.m. Rise up to the tantalizing aroma of Golden Penny Noodles goat meat pepper soup flavor. Golden Penny Noodles. I want what I want.
This is the University of Africa. Here, the most important qualification is imagination, because here, everyone has a reason to imagine.
Passion, finesse, skill, beats, stunts, beats.
What's your reason? We want to hear it from you. Imagine it with you. Maybe even make it a reality for you. Follow at INT'L Nigeria on all social media platforms for more details. T's and C's apply.
INT'L, a reason to imagine.
Ìfẹ́ tí kò lábàwọ́n ni ìfẹ́ ìyá jẹ́. Bẹ́ẹ̀ kò sí ohun tó dùn tó bíi Indomie alájẹpọnu lákànlọ́. Nítorí náà, fi ìfẹ́ hàn pẹ̀lú Indomie.
I have a little cup, sir, in my little chest, sir. Anytime I cough, sir, it makes a heavy sound, sir.
I see. You have a cough. I know just what you need. I'll give you Uniplex. It will clear your chest fast. Fast, fast, fast. Clear your chest fast.
Uniplex. Uniplex.
Uniplex cough syrup gives you relief from sore throat, cold and chesty coughs. Manufactured by Daily Needs Industries Limited. Uniplex cough syrup is for children and adults.
Uniplex. Uniplex.
If symptoms persist after 2 days, consult your doctor.
Ìbàdàn máa jẹ̀gbín yó ọmọ àfikàràmù fọ́ orí mu. Samsung ti dé pẹ̀lú àwọn ìfilọ́lẹ̀ tó jẹ tí ń gbèsè. Gba Bluetooth speaker ohun à ń fetí gbọ́ni gbọ́rọ̀ àti power bank alágbára lọ́nà $20,000 per hour. Tó o bá ra ẹ̀yà ẹ̀rọ Samsung A series tààyàn. Wàá tún gba aago ìbọ̀wọ́ Samsung Watch 5. Tó o bá ra ẹ̀yà S23 series àbí Samsung Watch 5 Pro. Tó o bá ra Flip 4 àbí Fold 4. Ó yà ọ́ lẹ́nu àbí? Yára ṣàṣà lọ sí Play Mọ́kọ́lá kó lọ́jà àwọn àǹfààní agbọ́nmálè lọ́wọ́ yìí. Àdéhùn àtàsọtẹ́lẹ̀ ń bẹ o.
32 FM 94.9. Filling the world with laughter.
Thank you for staying with us. Of course, it's time to open the phone lines 0705 5,949 and 0809 7,949. You wanted to quickly touch on a story.
Yes, before we actually went on that, and I think the studio producer here went so fast on me. We've actually went on that. Yes, I wanted you to look at this before we took that break. That's when we come back. If you look at what has been happening in the country in terms of corruption, Prof, you see instances of when an individual have been found to have meddled with the coffers of the state, as a matter of fact. And once you join the ruling party, all the sins are forgiven. And now for Alex Oti is saying, as a matter of fact, that even if Ipe Azo decides to join the APC, he must actually account for about several millions of naira that have been looted in the state. What do we make out of this?
No, I mean, for instance, we have the president of the Senate. He still has some issues to do with the EFCC, and he's president of the Senate now. So I get what they are saying. I think it's a welcome development for Oti to say that. And he would say that, wouldn't he? He's of the Labour Party. To say that irrespective of whether you're in the ruling party or not, then you must account for the revenue, you must account for the income, you must account for the expenditure that you've engaged in whilst you're governor. This is the right thing to do. And I think it should become the order of the day. And it mustn't matter. And to get that, you must have an independent EFCC. An EFCC that is not teleguided by political forces. It's only when you have a fully professional EFCC, like the FBI, you understand, in the United States, that's when you are going to be sure that politicians will sit up and politicians will do the right thing. You always get the crooks, but not the kind of crooks we get on an unprecedented scale in our political space.
All right, the phone lines 0705 5,949 and 0809 7,949. Let us know your reactions to any of the comments so far. Hello.
Denike, good morning. GBOLABO&DENIKE. Prof, good morning. Who will actually make them account? Is it the FCC that bundle up the whole issue? At the end of the day, they tell them to go free. Go home, you are free. Well, I think one of the suggestions I was just making one time is I said probably what happens is if you are found guilty of looting 100 billion, you will pay 150 billion. How will you get it? Probably literally all your properties will collect it and still send it to prison so that when you come back, you will start from the scratch. That is actually, and on the dollar naira issue, I actually feel, Prof, you rightly said it, the market forces will handle it. We shouldn't expect magic overnight. Those other sets of people actually bastardize this for years. Probably with time, this thing will balance. I actually say this is actually the best policy that would work in this part of the world. Let's just watch and see. But I know it will definitely balance and then things will work well. Good morning. It's okay.
All right, thank you very much. 0705 5,949 and 0809 7,949. We also have some comments on our Facebook page.
All right, we're also live on Facebook. That is 32FM 949 Ibadan, and of course on YouTube as well. And we have a couple of comments here right on Facebook. And we're going to take this from Sulaiman Sheriff. It says, good morning, 32FM crew and our reliable prof. I absolutely agree with President Tinubu's statement. Collaboration is not a crime. I also urge Nigerian governors to work in unity with the central government and local council under them to achieve maximum impact because of teamwork begins by building trust.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Solomon from Asaba.
All right, Solomon, please make your point.
All right. Is it not obvious that our government or our politicians just put down policies without putting or let me say, put the cart before the horse. This subsidy removal, almost everyone in Nigeria supports subsidy removal. But the issue is now, what have you put in place before removing this subsidy to reduce the poverty level of this of the citizens, and likewise the biting hard of its consequence? What have we put in place? Now, after removing it, they are now looking for a way to subside the pain. How is that done? Well, that is just what is happening. Even right there in every of their policies, likewise in the loan they design for students. You've created nothing, and you are creating loan deals for people who have no job. More than 70% of graduates have no job, and you are still putting down and signing a loan bill instead of you doing some things first before putting down. That's just it, and that is why we will continue to have economic somersaults every time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Prof, do you want to react to any of that?
The problem is that we're in a mess, in a deep economic mess. And yes, in the ideal world, there's some things we put in place before we put in place some policies. But because of the mess, we have to act quickly. The government has to act fast. That's why everything is going at neck break speed.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ekele from Alakeshavon. I just want to use the police to 10 Assembly of House of Representatives for throwing out anti-immigration bill. Because just an anti-immigration is just out a woman face. How can you portray the woman movement? When you don't make your country pleasant, people are bound to move out to the foreign land where there's a greener pasture. I give them police to them for throwing out the bill. On the issue of UPLC, who accused of throwing the state into financial mess. It is because, as analysts say, it's because the EFCC is not effective. If the EFCC is effective, there's no way the man will not be thrown. It will be tried for throwing the state into mess. Have a nice day.
All right, have a nice day too. Thank you so much. We have a comment here from Momo Bashir Abiola. Says we're appealing to this administration under the leadership of President Tinubu to please allow Nigerians continue spending both old and new naira notes beyond 2023 and start withdrawing old one from the circulation gradually.
All right, Raji Afiz Abidemi says, good morning, Bolabo. Kenny is actually not in the studios this morning. An analyst in the studio on the issue of national advisors to President. Honestly, Mr. President, put right holes into right pegs. Look at the whale, Edu, Alaji Nuro, Ribadu, and others. They are all fit for the post. All right, Wale Edu. Okay, it should be Wale Edu. Yes, and of course we have this Ashiwaju mean business, and Jagaban is not joking. God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria. All right, Balkiz Onodiran says, away from partisan politics, all of the special advisors that Tinubu has so far selected are experts in their fields. Baba is probably simply importing plumbers for plumbing jobs, which will help the Nigerian economy. We'll keep an eye on how things go. Before we go, I quickly wanted to mention this story that I saw from the Punch newspaper. A man arrested for vandalizing Lagos bridge railings. And he escaped, and then he had this huge railing which he removed from the bridge. Now, would we blame this on the lack of jobs or an organized society? And seeing that so much money was spent on those bridges, what measures should be put in place so that things like this do not continue? Do law enforcement have to man the bridge? What's the way forward?
I think the cheapest way to maintain the security of those bridges is to have CCTV. The fact is that it's not just in Lagos that it's happening everywhere. People are going under bridges, baking bridges, so that they can remove the rods. People are going on the balustrades that are supposed to protect. Even the ones now that they use cement, they're using concrete now. Do you know that people are breaking those concretes to get into the metal in? So some of it is poverty, sheer poverty, but a lot of it is indiscipline. And people basically have no regard for their fellows. That's why they're doing such. And I think there should be stiff measures against them. Stiff measures.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, GBOLABO&DENIKE. Professor, good morning. This is John Olarewaju from Agbo.
All right.
On the issue of Alex Oxley, I think the governor should face his job. Should try to make sure that he did very well to the people of Abia State. If he tries to be, I'm not saying he should not go after the PSU, but he should not so put it much upon his shoulder that he will now affect his government, because by the time he spent like 2 years there, I think it will be difficult for him to even do anything again. They will start a campaign here and there. He needs to focus on the mandate given to him, that he just pursue what is not going to see the end of it. Because if he continue like that, to me, the system of Nigeria, to me, will not be able to allow him to do anything. And therefore, the Japa syndrome, well, maybe if they want every one of us to stay in Nigeria, let them too stay in Nigeria. They should not go and take any medical help in overseas. Their children should not go and study in abroad anymore. Let us stay here. Let us build this country. Let them continue eating the food of Nigeria, wearing the shoes of Nigeria, clothes of Nigeria. So that time, we can say, okay, you cannot allow anybody to move again. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you very much. That comment definitely cracked me up.
All right, we'll take this last one on Facebook, and this is by Timothy Okore. It says, good morning, Denike, GBOLABO, and Prof. I bought the idea of the caller by the name Okay. Every looter has to pay beyond what they have looted. This is one of the best ways to fight in corruption.
All right, this is our final call. You have 30 seconds. Who's on the line?
Okay, good morning. My name is Benga Mario, calling from Apata.
All right.
On Japa syndrome, I think the Nigerian government should make Nigeria an attractive destination for other nationalities to live and work in. And on IPSU, I think the APC should not allow fraudsters to join their party once they are being convicted. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. It's time for us to leave the studios. Prof, any final words as we jack back from the studio?
There's no doubt about it that corruption has confounded Nigeria, and we need a solution quick, fast, and apparently.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Oluwajedokun, for doing this with us this morning. And thank you, dear listener, for sticking and staying tuned. I am Adenike Adimwago.
And I'm GBOLABO, Famous School. Bye for now.